Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hope you're doing well. So we're continuing some of the commentary I have about the very well done film called All Quiet on the Western Front, concerning the war scenes between France and Germany in the early 1900s with trench warfare. Now, what's really unique about the way in which this series went about expressing the psychology of the characters is when the young men of Germany, they're grouped up, the main characters, Ludwig and all of them, Paul and whatnot, they are all taking their letters, I think, of permission or letters of something that they need in order to enlist. And the main character, Paul, his parents have not signed, so he has someone forge the signature, right? Forges it. I can't remember if he forges it or someone else forges it. I just remember the forging scene. And Ludwig, with the glasses, tells him, "Oh, you shouldn't do that. Your father will hit you." And he goes through with it anyways. And he tells his group of friends, "I don't want to be left behind." You can feel the enthusiasm in this scene where the young men want to enlist and go fight for their fatherland. And it's at that moment, when you watch the entire series, that you begin to see how, if only at that moment he wouldn't have forged the signature and talked to his family more, gotten permission, I'm just not enlisted at all, he would have had a much different life, especially with all the experiences he went through. And since he would witness his own friends passing away and see horrors beyond his imagination, well, you look at that happy scene quite differently, and it also humanizes us to the young German men at that time who were told they were the generation that was going to make a difference. These young men wanted camaraderie, they had friendship. All these young men, they went together happily, and they were enthusiastic about where they were going to go. And that to me is very telling, because it shows you that young men need a sort of camaraderie in their life. And they went on an adventure together, and it was a brutal one that ended pretty intensely. Each one in a very sad way in the end. But at that moment, it's almost like there's a hero's journey. You think that's about to happen. Well, they'll have honor and glory, which I'm sure whatever they did, there will be people who will mourn them and honor them. But at that moment, their lives changed forever at the enlistment. And once you watch the whole film and then you go back, you're like, oh, if only they would have known what they were getting into. Because there's an innocence about that scene that is really uncommon in cinema. Because the characters have a very happy-go-lucky disposition for young men. And they haven't been soured by war yet. So that scene highlights how these young men went into battle and how they changed and when they later got out, those that did get out. They went in as mindless teens, eager and enthusiastic, and came out traumatized, jaded, yet stronger, and battle tested, those that survived. And they'll never be the same after that. So the beginning scene where they're all excited to go gather around and listen to the war speech, the enlistment speech, is a unique angle in not only acting and storytelling, but also representing what those young Germans must have actually felt. Because it seems very realistic. Because if you want to get these young men eager to enlist in the military, especially back then, well, you're going to have to find ways to get them excited to not desert. There are ways to do it. The Romans used to crucify you, give you capital punishment if you were a deserter. There's different ways, right? I think the Spanish would flog you, right? There was different things that would happen to you if you deserted your post. But they were very smart in the way in which they got the young men to recruit. And if you think about it, somebody has to do that job because war exists and war will always exist. So how do you get the young men to be excited about showing up to give up their life? And what is the experience of the young men who have bought into that dream? Something to think about. And that's what that scene in this movie, All Quiet on the Western Front, made me think about. And if you have seen that scene, I'd love to hear your thoughts. By the way, if you'd like to join my blog, it's www.subscribestar.com/MilahanArchive. I post longer posts on there. And I'll be doing a couple more of these videos because each scene is very potent, and I want to break up each scene into videos so that way people can comment about specific things instead of doing a long live stream which might get interrupted or be cut short, and then I wouldn't be able to finish all the points. So let me know what you think.